We'll kick off the afternoon today with a special presentation from our mayor of Kansas City, Missouri, Mr. Quentin Lucas, and he'll take it away from here. Thanks, guys.
Every city and every mayor who I think is actually serious about the future of their community recognizes that the recovery of economic development opportunities is key. And as you know better than I, there were several key challenges in recent years. Of course, the pandemic and consumer choices thereafter were an important part of what happened. But in cities like this one, and ones much larger and some even smaller, the political diatribe around the future of economic development, around needing businesses to grow in our community, around actually needing efficiency in government so that we can continue to attract business and new projects, has been something that's been fairly difficult for us. Last week, for those who live in the Kansas City area, you may have seen that we had a fairly raucous city council meeting. Several of us were accused for any number of things, but most importantly for us, it was important for us to continue to try to do what we could to generate and encourage investment into our community. As you all continue to talk to your city councils, mayors, and others, always share how important it is that we have economic development to uplift folks at every income level and in every part of our community. Closing things down and shutting things down does not get us where we need to be in terms of the future of Kansas City and of all of our markets. And sometimes, and I'll admit sometimes, we need you to make sure that you're sharing that message, not just with us, but also with the community more broadly. In an era where it's very easy to get clicks on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, which I continue not to even understand, it is important that you share, I think, a very clear message, which is that we need development to continue to grow our community, that we continue to live in an era of competition where some cities are working and striving to attract new business while others have made it more difficult for them. And important, that our talent of whatever level wants to be in a community where there are good economic opportunities, there are restaurants, there are shops, there are things going on. That's what we continue to try to build in Kansas City, and for those of you who invest here or are working here, we thank you for it.
Well, we're going to kick it off with a question about how is the Kansas City retail market recovering following the pandemic. Phil?
Yeah, I mean, the pandemic affected all of us, right? But we've heard the retail apocalypse forever, you know? So we're kind of prepared for this, not exactly the pandemic, but, you know, it's ever changing. And this is kind of, you heard from the tenants earlier, how it's changing our habits or culture. A lot of it's forced now for us to open up as far as the drive-thrus and the downsizing. And you know, you look at these retail centers, what's going in these things now? So, but the pandemic, it forced a lot. We've been very active. I think we saw a slowdown for probably 4 or 5 months. And then we've got, I mean, guys coming out of the woodworks. You know, we've had centers that have been vacant for 3 years, and all of a sudden we're completely full now. So you look around, I think retail's doing pretty strong, and I think it's due to a lot of us guys up here that are used to the ever-changing market. So.
Same question for you, Phil. What different types of requests have you experienced with tenants related to their leases or their spaces?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest one is, like Aaron said, the pandemic lease language. You know, everybody's, I gotta have this, gotta have this, gotta have this. Well, let's define what that is. But, you know, that's probably the biggest request. You know, I'm seeing, back to my point earlier, is these tenants are being willing to accept less TI. I know they're all asking for it, but for a lower rental rate. So they're going in there, taking these shelves or whatever else and going in with their team and reducing that rental rate to get that space with no TI. And these landlords didn't like getting hung to dry with these tenants going out over the pandemic where they'd already given them $40 a square foot TI. So getting $40 a square foot rent doesn't do you any good when they're closed down after you give them $40 in TI. So that's probably the biggest thing. And going forward, I've seen a lot of tenants request shorter terms. You're seeing the pop-up concepts, which I think is interesting for landlords to entertain. Some of these, you know, there's some national ones out there we've done where they've done, you know, right after the pandemic, they did 6 months as a trial test to see if those sales were going to be there, and then we had the lease in place afterwards that went into effect if that worked out. So great for the landlord, they took it as is, and then it went into effect if their sales hit. So it was kind of a partnership type deal there. So that's some of the stuff I think.
Great. So David, I'd like to start with you. You know, we heard from our brokerage leasing panel, and they talked about some trends, but I want to talk about what we're seeing today in Kansas City with existing developments and spaces. What are you seeing with vacancies, rents? Are they up? Are they down? Give us some insight into what you're seeing today.
Right now, we're seeing a tremendous amount of activity. We're having a very exciting year. Believe it or not, there's a bunch of new folks that are coming into town. There's restaurants, there's retail, and existing space is really the paramount product right now because of all these things you've already heard. But with the supply chain and with the delays and with full TI and BPU and Johnson County Wastewater and all those other entities that slow down development, people are trying to get into existing space in our shop, and we have been filling space and converting existing buildings as fast as we can fill them, which has been very, very fast. We've been seeing a reduction in TI from the national companies and a reduction in the rents. So if you're not doing TI, or you're doing a little bit of TI, you can give them a little bit better rent, but they're not wanting to make those commitments for the long-term rents, long-term leases like we've had in the past, the bankable leases. So it's been really kind of interesting and exciting at the same time in terms of what we're getting, but I haven't seen any substantial reduction and more of an increase in rents in the past probably 6 months.
David, you mentioned a couple tenants that are doing really well right now. So what are your goals when you're looking at tenants and who you want to sign?
Well, I think that we're just, you know, we like these e-tainment kind of developments where we've always brought in restaurants into our shopping centers. We put them in the parking lots, we put them on the end caps, we put in inside stores. We like unique and different restaurants, plus we'll put in, you know, the national restaurant chains and the new guy that's out there that's gonna, like a Bowling's when they first started out. And I could go on and on. So where you can go, you can get some entertainment, you can get some food, and then there's retail supplemental there, which is really that community-oriented kind of concept that we've really been pushing on the last 4 or 5 years with all these big national retailers. But we also, like Bob, really like, you know, one floor retail, good solid users where people are going to be coming to them multiple times a week. I like the Best Buys. We've got them in a lot of our properties. We've got the other junior boxes in a lot of our properties. They've always been a really good draw. And the grocery anchored centers, I mean, there's nothing that I could say that would make me think that they are not going to continue to be a solid commodity in the brick and mortar commercial real estate going in the future. You know, everybody thought everybody was going to get everything delivered and that was going to be the next thing. And you got Postmates now, and I don't know how many people do all that stuff. How many people in there have food delivered to their house? You can raise your hand. Okay, so all of the young people. Well, and some of the young people business, they don't want you to know that they do that, but I know they do. Is that now they're canceling you out every single night, and people are getting frustrated. Anybody got canceled on their food? And I'm seeing a lot of people are going, I'm just going to go pick it up. I'm just going to go eat there. I'm tired of this waiting for my delivery. We're going to see that. You know, it's not as solid a model as everyone would think that it is. There'll be more consolidation of those companies, and people will continue to go back and get that experience in these restaurants and come through these drive-throughs where they pick it up themselves. And I think the grocery store and the big box is the same thing, especially in the Midwest, where people want immediate gratification and they want immediate parking and they want it to be nice and easy. Hey, I park, I go in, I leave. So I feel very confident about where we're going in the future.
Yeah. David, anything to add?
Well, I think Bob said what needs to be said, and that is that for, you know, the guys that are in here about developers, you know, the but-for of the past, and now, you know, these new city council people in many of these surrounding cities are just adamant against any kind of retail subsidy in order to give the opportunity for developers to build new product that are going to meet the needs of the community of all age groups and all incomes. So we're meeting everybody. We're servicing everybody in the community. And I would just say that it's really upon us guys in this room that are developing, building, leasing, to keep in mind that these incentives, in order to do new developments, they really are going to have to be out there and have to be available. And we're going to need more and more tools, as Bob says, in order to at least be equal to some of what they're giving to some of the industrial and apartments and even some of the office buildings, because we're bringing the employees, we're bringing the contractors, we're bringing the people. So that's what I would say. And I hope everybody else here, when you talk about what do I look forward to, what do I think is exciting, it's the people that we work with here in Kansas City. We've got a really, really good commercial real estate, especially on the retail side, that's pretty close. We work together. I mean, there's not many cities where retail guys will work with each other and actually enjoy it and have some fun and go out and kick it. And really, it's something that I always look forward to. And I was really happy that we were able to get this thing off the ground without masks and everything else. I want to thank, you know, Scott and his whole group over at the French group. But I'm just saying that you guys, you know, the younger ones, you got to go, hey, oh man, today's a really bad day, but tomorrow's going to be better, because every day is different, right? I mean, somebody calls on the phone the next day and they go, wow, I got something new today. But you just got to remember to return the call from yesterday, as we heard earlier, because that is so important. Personal communication, personal talking. Me, him, and him, and a lot of other people in this room depend upon, and where we made our money is in relationships. Right? It's all relationships. I mean, Bob here did goddamn every Walmart this side of the Mississippi. Oh, that's right, the other side too. And Owen,
See why he waited to be last?
yeah, Owen, I'm not sure what he did, but he's up here. Matt's doing the new stuff, so we know what he's doing. All I would say is I really appreciate you guys putting it on today, and for you guys for coming and spending the time with us and letting us, all these different people that have been up here today, letting them put out their wares and show you what is important to them, and I hope it'll all be important to you guys. Yeah. So that's me.
Yeah, well, thank you, David. I think that's a great way to end this panel discussion. Appreciate everyone's insight.